Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 5th of December 2024. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your Thursday status chat. I think we're liking a little better on Thursday. Now today I have some stuff we need to get into, but first I want to remind you that it's going to get cold this weekend. See, look at it, what we got going on here. 15, let's zoom in on that. 15, 20, 34. So we've got right here at the weekend, we're going to be a little bit chilly, and that gets us into... If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Right here at the weekend, we're going to be a little bit chilly, and that gets us into something we want to look at, which is, do you remember to get your outdoor faucet covers? Remember when we had a big panic buy and run on these things? If you're in a new home, or maybe your old ones got chewed up by the dog in the yard, or whatever you might have, remember that you can actually run out and get some before it gets cold. I'm trying to get this out here, this show in the can and out in its distribution, so you can get them before you run out of these little guys, if in case you actually like those type of things. Now, I've never put any in till last year when it was going to get so cold and break any problems out. You know, no pipes burst because of a faucet. I have what we call the long stem, the frost type. Didn't have problems at the house. And I used, and if you're in a real pinch and you get real scared about it, you can take like a plastic cover that isn't insulated and use it just to cover up physically the faucet, so that it's not going to stop the temperature soaking in there, but it can do something for the wind chill that runs across, just like a motorcycle radiator, evaporator, that type of thing, a fend thing. When the air runs across it, it helps take the heat away. It might help do something like that. If nothing else, make you feel a little bit better. All right, let's get into the show. Event this week reminds me of just how much we might have to deal with pest removal, particularly on an older home rather than a new construction. That may be a generalization that's not valid, but I find that a lot of the older homes, sometimes we get a little bit of water infiltration that softens some wood, which makes it easier for some critter to be chewing on, getting in and pulling around. Sometimes we have some wind damages that may come in that may loosen a bit of soffit and allow people to get into, and by people I mean little furry rodents type things that get in there. So let's look at this center picture that we have here. I ask a question: squirrel damage USA annual cost. Let's do the zoom in on that. Here we go. AI overview, according to Professor Google, says that squirrel damage repair may be drywall repair $300 to $900, insulation replacement $1,000 to $2,500, electrical wiring repair $2 to $4 per square foot, duct repair $12 to $25 per linear foot, siding repair $350 to $1,400, crawl space repair and cleaning $5,000 to $15,000. Plus, we have down here at the bottom, let me see if I can pull this up a little bit higher, squirrel exclusion work. I guess that's squirrel rodent proofing. Let me zoom in if it'll let me do it on this screen. We'll pull this up. Squirrel, that makes the numbers mucho better. All right, it says squirrel exclusion work, rodent proofing, $1,000 to $2,500, depending on the size of the home and how many home features require exclusion. Sanitation, cleaning, $300 to $800. Squirrel removal for nests with babies, that's about $200. Squirrel removal for 6 squirrels, 25 to 40% of the final cost. And of course, that just shows you what we're kind of getting into if we're getting into squirrel issues. Because the reason I bring this up, according to my research, squirrels mate in December. and bring up their babies when it's cold. They get them up when it's good and cold, and then you have squirrels running around the neighborhood. So what you gonna do with your squirrel proofing if you find that you have some? It's just something to remember when you have an inspection or something on a property, for them to look for actual evidence, not of possibilities so much as, do you have a problem? Because a little bit of a possibility, you can often tighten and tuck that stuff up without having too much trouble. But what you don't want to do is have raccoons, squirrels, bats, because bats are often protected. They can be a little bit difficult to deal with in your home if you're buying a used, previously loved home that may need a little bit of work, a little older thing. Just be aware that can be a cost in there. Now, we want to look at something right here. Let's get over to that center panel again, get this thing knocked out. We're looking at the PMI by S&P Global. We want to look at this little headline. We don't really have time to get into it just yet, but it says PMI survey points to robust capital growth in November, but Europe falters as U.S. outperforms. Now, I don't know. I talk about the people ticks, and some people say, I hate that. Don't ever mention any kind of left or right or conservative, liberal spending, Keynesian economics versus sort of some Friedman-like economic policy. What are we going to do? How does that affect me? I don't want to hear anything about it, but the reality is something happened in November that helps bring this up to this point where November's looking good for the U.S. I like that. We're not going to get into it any deeper than that. Want to look at another one real quick here. Construction spending hits record high in October. That was before the election, so we can't necessarily grab a hold of that. This is from Morningstar. I'll put the link to these stories here in your description over on your status chat. It says spending up to 0.4% versus the forecast of 0.2%. The important part here is that we're double what we expected to be. So, Commerce Department reports this Monday, which was this week, economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal expected construction spending to rise 0.2 in October, so we beat that over the past year. You can have this. Last thing we want to look at is maybe a little bit of this Board of Governors Federal Reserve System. We look at the activity we call the Beige Book. We just had a new drop here recently. We want to look at that. I remind people that if we want to go to the forecaster, it does look like it's a fairly high, according to the odds makers, that we're going to get another 0.25% cut come up here in December. Not known yet. I did look at some of the Fed's governors, their speakers speaking, and they're saying everything is great. We did a good job, but inflation might still be a little bit of something there. But their usual non-committal self still shows up. So let's look at the Beige Book. All right, let's do it. Let's do the zoom in here. Look. Pull her up where we can get a good idea on it. November of 2024, you see that right here. That is just recent. The overall economic outlook says activity rose in most districts. Well, we're liking that, looking a little bit more cheerful in November. What happened? 3 regions exhibited modest to moderate growth that offset flat or slightly declining in 2 others, though growth in economic activity was generally small. Expectations for growth moderately rose among most geographic sectors. So that's kind of a national, looking good. What could have happened nationally to make us feel much better? We want to just zip right down here. Again, I'm going to give you this link so you can look at it in general. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Plus, I have to repair a truck door here, a switch where I can have the window go back to operating up and down. I had to take it apart to get the window back up because it came down and didn't want to go back up. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that with inflation? Labor markets. Employment levels were flat or up slightly across districts. Hiring activity was subdued as worker turnover remained low and a few firms reported increased their headcounts. The level of layoffs also reportedly low. Contacts indicated that they expected employment to remain steady or rise slightly over the next year. Still a caution. Prices rose only a modest pace across the Federal Reserve districts. We have Boston. You can go and actually look in your area. We would be in the Atlanta area, if I remember our district, because we always have the federal. There it is. We have the Fed in Atlanta. Right here, Atlanta. Economic activity in the 6th district grew. Employment was steady and wages grew slowly. Input costs and prices were little changed. Retail sales improved slightly. Tourism declined modestly. Demand for housing deteriorated. Transportation activity grew slightly. Loan growth was modest and manufacturing fell and energy activity grew modestly. So that should be enough for a Thursday show. Again, I got to get this in the can. We got to get some stuff done. You might want to go out and get you some of those little cutesy styrofoam cup holders that go on top of your faucet, because we're going to get cold, especially if you're in a new house and you don't know how it's going to weather because it's new construction. Maybe this is the first winter. You might want to play it safe than sorry, and you might want to get that jump on it ahead of time. And for you to do that, you have had to see this, which means I have to get this thing finished and in the can. Let's get to our numbers. Hello, I'm Dale Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. All right, very quickly. Last week, 11/27/24, we had 24,131 in the opportunities in the Real Scout system. Get yourself an account today if you don't have one. That was down over the previous period. We had 3782 in the under contract still showing. That also came down. The integer ratio between those two numbers remained steady for another week in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row at 16%. It went down. Remember, we do tend to trail off a little bit in the wintertime when we're not as green and beautiful and pretty. Now this week, 12/5/24, where we are today, we had 23,588 in the opportunities. That trickled down just a little bit as well. We had 3716 in the under contract still showing. That trickled down just a little bit, and the integer ratio remained the same at 16%, although we did round up from 15.7, so we are trending into wintertime. All right, let's get this thing packed up, posted where you can see it. And remember, if you want to get you some of those little styrofoam thing, this being the first cold snap, you're probably not going to be the only one who's thinking about it. Maybe you went to the garage and you can't find them, or the dog ate your homework, or whatever the deal is. Anyway, we got to get her done. We'll see you later.